So with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers today. First up will be Chris Turner. Chris is the founder and CEO of Business Advantage. She's based in our headquarters in the UK, just outside of London. Chris has over 30 years of experience in the CAD, CAE, CAM, PLM, PDM markets, including extensive international experience working with all major vendors in these spaces in Europe, the Americas, and in Asia Pacific. And also with us today is Nicola Mansfield. Nicola is the Director of Market and Competitor Analysis at Business Advantage. And Nicola has over 12 years of experience of running CAD market research and has been the lead on all of our annual CAD trends studies. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Bill, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone. May I add my welcome to Bill's, and also thank you for the investment of your time. So the information we're going to present today as part of the webinar is part of a larger report that we've compiled, and it's available to download from our website. If you don't yet have a copy, a link will be provided to you after the webinar. So in this webinar, we're going to travel on a short journey together. We'll start by explaining a little bit about the methodology, and following on from that, we're going to share a snapshot of key trends and then a deeper dive into some of those key trends and look at changes over time. Finally, we'll touch upon hardware and software usage in the CAD space and look at popular sources of information for users and decision makers. And then, as Bill's mentioned, we're going to have a short interactive session. So, as we look at this slide, we're going to introduce the background to the research for you. Why is this research useful to you? Well, we hope our aim here is to assist you with your future planning within the CAD space, as we believe, of course, that future planning is key for any business. We have, as Bill has mentioned, a lot of experience in the CAD, CAM, CAE, PDM, PLM sectors, and have a lot of experience in conducting over 650 projects in this space. This particular study was conducted using an online survey with responses from 610 CAD users and decision makers across a range of company sizes, industry sectors, and it is a truly global study with responses from 64 countries. This is the third annual wave of this study undertaken by Business Advantage, and the methodology and survey were very similar across the three waves to ensure a true year-on-year comparison of results. However, there are additions based upon your feedback from the discussion of previous surveys. So we look forward to receive your feedback on the results, and also if you'd like us to dig deeper by different segments, industries or size of companies, brand of software, etc., then please feel free to drop us a note and we'll be happy to look at your needs. We've covered 15 trends in this survey. 2 were added for this year based upon feedback from people involved with the survey. The 2 new ones for this year are CAM and 2D drafting. But comparability is maintained on the remaining 13 to the previous years, allowing us to build a picture of how reality reflects the predictions for usage, for example. So, as we talk about these trends with the respondents, and they've kindly given us information, it builds a picture of how the market views the key trends we're talking about. So the level of awareness, the level of importance, the level of current usage, and the level of predicted usage. Our survey audience this year, a total of 610 respondents, enabled the data to be compiled. The sample error here just is plus or minus 4%. This was the same in last year's survey. The sample data shows unweighted figures for all, and a we have a similar pattern of region or geography and respondent type as seen in the previous year. And we have weighted the data on company sector and size to ensure comparability to 2015 data as far as possible. So just quickly looking at the respondents, we can see here that 79% of people are coming from EMEA and North America, and 21% from Asia Pacific. 8 in 10 respondents are from small, that's up to 50 employees, and medium, between 50 and 1,000 employee companies. The split between manufacturing and AEC, the two main areas here, 35 and 30%. And if we look at the respondents' profile, 1 in 3 respondents are managers in their company, but if you also take executive management and some IT management, then we're at about 45% of respondents are managers. So, just going to give an overview now, a current snapshot, if you will, of key trends, and then we're going to go into more detail on most of the trends that we covered. So here is a quick snapshot of awareness and current usage. The red bar shows awareness, and the blue bar shows current usage. And the black line shows adoption, which is the usage as a proportion of those aware of a trend, enabling us to see where awareness does and does not lead to usage. So if we just take a quick example, if we look at PDM usage is at 25%, awareness is at 51%, so there's an adoption ratio of 49%. The dotted line that you see on the screen shows average adoption. Therefore, the trends shown left of the line are seeing that awareness leads to usage, whereas those to the right are not seeing usage driven by awareness. Perhaps unsurprisingly, simulation, PDM, CAM, and PLM all have significantly higher awareness in the manufacturing sector, whilst BIM has higher awareness in AEC, of course. There is a generally highest or higher trend awareness in the Americas, with lower awareness of trends in APAC. Cloud-based CAD, simulation, PLM, PDM, and concurrent engineering also see lower awareness in EMEA. The pattern is reflected in the current usage of the trends. Usage is higher in manufacturing for the majority of trends, except BIM, understandably, mobile CAD access, pay-as-you-go or subscriptions, where AEC sees higher usage. And as a broad brush statement, usage is generally higher in the Americas than in APAC. This chart takes us over the 3 waves or 3 years of the survey and shows changes in awareness over the time. We've excluded 2D drafting and CAM because they're new this year. The majority of the trends see continuing increases in awareness over the 3-year period of the study, with half seeing a significant uplift from 2015 to 2016, i.e. 3D printing, cloud-based CAD, PLM, concurrent engineering, advanced real-time rendering, and pay-as-you-go or subscriptions. The only trend seeing a dip in awareness is simulation, but this lies within statistical confidence limits. As all other trends see an uplift, we can assume that this is due to the sample rather than an actual result. Increasing awareness of technologies, developing greater knowledge of the technologies, is a desire by companies to improve their performance and to increase investment in technologies to help improve business performance. This next chart, we look at usage over time, and we can see here that uplifts in awareness do not automatically translate to uplifts in usage. And again, because it's new this year, the two topics, 2D drafting and CAM, have been excluded. Although more niche trends of 3D printing and pay-as-you-go or subscriptions see significant increases in usage, and we'll go into that in more detail, looking at the greatest growth potential for particular trends over the next 5 years, dips are seen for simulation and mobile access to CAD. The dip in simulation is interesting. There's quite a variance here. Looking at Asia Pacific, last year 44% were using. This year 26% of those are using. So almost all the change in relation to a dip in usage of simulation is down to a change in, or much of it is due to a change in Asia Pacific. This next slide looks at the trends, and it looks at their importance. We asked each respondent to rate these trends in terms of their importance to their company or their business on a 1 to 10 scale, where 1 is not important at all and 10 is extremely important. The average scores of these ratings have been used to construct the chart. The key differences by sector, company size, and region, the mean scores are highlighted on the chart. If you look at the top 5 trends, and looking at the highest ratings, the top 3 box scores, 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, as one would expect, 3D modeling, PDM, and PLM are more important in manufacturing than other sectors. 2D drafting is more important in AEC than other sectors, and simulation is more important in large companies. BIM, of course, is understandably more significant in the AEC space, and open source CAD in EMEA and the Americas, as well as the AEC sector. This chart shows the correlation between current usage and the importance ranking of the key CAD trends. If we look into the top right-hand quadrant, the leading trends, 3D modeling is very much the same as last year. It's a leading trend, and 2D drafting joins that. So in the top right quadrant, we have leading trends. This is high usage and high importance. In the bottom right quadrant, we have low usage and high importance. So these are growing trends, but trailing at the moment, and we can see that PLM and concurrent engineering are currently in that quadrant. The top left quadrant, which is high usage but low importance, but it's emerging, and the key emerging trend, as in last year, is that of 3D printing. And lastly, based on the snapshot of usage and importance, what we have termed niche trends are in the bottom left quadrant. This is low usage and low importance, and we've termed them niche trends. So in summary, the market is still strongly focused on 3D modeling and 2D drafting, but there are a number of trends which are becoming increasingly key for CAD software and solution providers. Looking to the future. So here we've got a chart which plots the current usage together with future usage, and we're assuming here that the current usage stays the same, and we add the incremental usage in the next 12 months and then the next 3 to 5 years. The bigger the gap between the baseline and the predictive usage line, the bigger the opportunity for growth, the bigger the opportunity for you, this as perceived by our international respondents. Again, we can see the growth potential for 3D printing, as well as mobile access to CAD and cloud-based CAD. And the detail of this predicted growth by subsector is explored in much more detail in the next section. So thank you very much. I'd now like to hand over to Nicola, who is going to explore these trends in more detail for us.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Chris has been talking about usage and the trends in terms of their importance. The next set of slides will really be looking at growth potential. And following some feedback from last year's CAD trends, some of the areas that were of most interest to some of our readers of the report and the attendees of the last year's webinar, we've moved our focus to ranking trends by their growth potential over the next 5 years, rather than just by the level of importance that respondents attach to the trend. So just to explain how this has been calculated, we've created a growth potential ratio, which includes those that are planning to use in 3 to 5 years, minus those that are currently using, divided by those that are currently using, and multiplied by 1/2. So you can see at the top right-hand corner of the slide, the calculation there. On this slide, we're showing the trends ordered by growth potential. So on the left-hand side, you can see the trend with the greatest growth is pay-as-you-go, and this is followed by cloud-based CAD and augmented and virtual reality. We can see that trends which are currently the most important to users are actually on the right-hand side of the graph, and they're the well-established trends such as 3D modeling and 2D drafting. They have very high current usage and therefore relatively little scope to further expand their reach. Although current usage and perceived importance are still relatively low for what we've termed the more niche trends, such as pay-as-you-go, that's really where the future growth lies. So the following set of slides explore some of these trends in order of their growth potential ratio over the next 3 to 5 years, and also highlight where they sit in terms of importance rating. So the first trend here we're looking at in terms of growth potential is pay-as-you-go. And when we're talking about pay-as-you-go, we're talking about the means of access to CAD software. And this has been ranked as highest in terms of future potential at 240% growth. Now, just to clarify, when we're talking about pay-as-you-go here, we're including things like short-term licensing and rental, but also sort of annual subscriptions. But what it doesn't include is maintenance subscriptions. So we're seeing a high growth opportunity here, but it is currently a low base. Just to give some explanation about the way the data is presented here, the first bar on the left-hand side shows the usage of pay-as-you-go software at 2% in 2014, when we started to monitor the trend. The second bar is showing 2015, and the middle bar shows where we are today at 2016. So this currently is 5% of the sample. We're currently using pay-as-you-go software. The red arrow above the bars is a trend line, and it's showing where we anticipate usage to be in 3 to 5 years. So by 2021, we're anticipating that 17% of a similar sample would be using pay-as-you-go. Throughout the slides, we'll identify where there are any significant differences by country or industry sector. In this case, there was, because of the very low base, there were really no current differences. And although pay-as-you-go has the lowest importance score at 3.4, and it was ranked 15th in terms of current usage, pay-as-you-go is a growing area which is expected to increase. And really this trend has been driven by the software vendors, and it's in response to customer need for more flexible pricing and licensing models, and also with the opportunities presented with cloud computing. And over many research projects that we've conducted in recent years, customers of vendors have been telling us that they would like a more flexible pricing and licensing model. Next, we're looking at cloud-based CAD applications. And we didn't provide a definition for cloud-based CAD in the survey, but what we really mean is internet-based computing, where services such as servers and storage and applications are delivered to an organization's computer and devices via the internet. The importance rating attached to cloud-based computing is still relatively low, so it's 3.8, which is actually slightly lower than last year, which was about 4. But growth potential is again high, 164% growth over the next 3 to 5 years. So then by 2021, a similar sample, 29%, would be using cloud-based CAD applications. And for the next year, in the short term, we're predicting 73% growth. Current usage is consistently around 1 in 10, and there are some indications that long-term future growth is more likely to come from the Americas and EMEA, and less so from the APAC region. And some of the perceived benefits of cloud-based CAD are things like higher mobility, ease of updating software, cost reduction, and increased storage capacity. This year we had 180 respondents who were using or planning to use cloud-based CAD applications, and last year we had 168. From many studies we've conducted at Business Advantage, we know that security issues are the main barrier to adoption of CAD and the CAD solutions, and this is still an area that cloud-based CAD vendors need to address in order to achieve this high growth potential. The next trend we're looking at here is augmented or virtual reality. And in terms of this survey, we've defined it as the use of non-geometrical data to augment a CAD model or view with direct or indirect physical real-world environment. This was a new trend that we added in 2015, and it's one of the trends where we anticipate high growth of 60% in the next year and 140% over the next 3 to 5 years. So again, if we completed the survey in 2021, we'd be looking for 12% of respondents to be currently using augmented or virtual reality. So in this year's survey, 1 in 20 actually report they're already using some form of augmented or virtual reality, compared to last year, which was about 1 in 33. Our forecast of 5% usage last year has been fulfilled, but this did clearly start from a very low base. Several of the larger analyst houses are predicting a total market worth of up to $150 billion by 2020. And 2018 is widely predicted to be the tipping point for this technology. So it's an exciting area to monitor, and the implications for the design market are extensive, with designers having virtual copies of designs in their own real-world environment. Next, we're looking at mobile access to CAD. And usage of mobile access to CAD has declined in the last year, but predicted growth remains above average at about 65% in the next 12 months and 118% over the next 3 to 5 years. Current usage in APAC is significantly lower than both Americas and EMEA, and in the short term, the next year, growth is more likely to come from Americas rather than EMEA or APAC. Mobile usage has started to make an impact in the AEC sector, where usage is higher. It's about 24%, and it's certainly higher than manufacturing. The government sector in particular seems to be more open to future growth in this area. In some recent projects that Business Advantage has conducted in the construction sector, just as an example, we've been hearing about some of the problems experienced by non-technical users on site, where they've been trying to use mobile access to view CAD models. So training is clearly a big issue here. The next trend we're looking at is advanced real-time rendering and visualization, and it remains fairly stable, but growth is likely to come from sectors, particularly outside the AEC sector. So manufacturing, new product design are being key areas for this trend, and it tends to be the larger organizations that are currently using advanced rendering and visualization. So we're predicting growth in the next year of 50%, and in 3 to 5 years, we're looking at about 88%. So again, if we conducted the survey in 5 years' time, we'd expect 30% of the respondents to be using some form of advanced real-time rendering and visualization. 3D printing is an interesting area. So usage has increased significantly for 3D printing, but importance actually remains below average, so it's not as important to some of our respondents. There's a growing niche for 3D printing in today's market, and the next 3 to 5 years, the forecast growth is about 75%. In terms of sectors using 3D printing, there's significantly lower usage in the AEC sector than all other industries, and it tends to be the medium and large companies that have adopted this technology, with the large companies representing about a third, and medium companies slightly less, at 31%. Although usage is currently lower in the smaller companies, some of the low-end printers, such as MakerBot, are seeing an increase in usage. And overall, we've identified more users of 3D printers in the US and the UK market. And as with the last year, the recognition of brands is still quite limited with 3D printing, and half of the people that completed the survey were unable to name the brands they actually use. But of those that could, 1 in 4 were using Stratasys and 1 in 6 are using MakerBot, slightly higher than in 2015. At Business Advantage, we've recently conducted a number of studies in this space, and we know that brand recognition remains quite low, so there's still a real opportunity to build market share for 3D printer vendors here. Some of the benefits that were mentioned by respondents of 3D printing: it's seen as providing design improvements, it's savings on design time, and also faster time to market. And also it has cost-saving benefits. Faster time to market and being able to lower prices were benefits that were most relevant to the APAC market. Next, we're looking at concurrent engineering, and we provided a definition of what we mean by concurrent engineering. And here we're talking about multiple users working on a single model in real time. And there's currently higher usage in medium and large companies than in the smaller companies. I think it's really 9% with small companies. And long-term future predicted usage is higher in those larger organizations. In the next year, we expect an increase of about 33%, and in 3 to 5 years, we're looking at a 72% increase. Related to concurrent engineering is the need to collaborate, and we also asked about collaboration tools that are currently used. And this year, half the respondents either did not use or were not aware of collaboration software. There's still a need to educate the market on collaboration tools, but some of the products and solutions that were being mentioned, a good number came from Autodesk, and they accounted for more than half of collaboration tool users this year. So some of the top software mentions were things like Autodesk Design Review, Autodesk Vault, and Navisworks. But other vendors such as PTC with Windchill and Siemens Teamcenter were also widely mentioned. Product Lifecycle Management, or PLM. Last year, we talked about the need to educate the market on PLM solutions. And last year, it was 46% of the sample were aware of the term, and this has remained the same in 2016. Usage has not grown from 2015 to 2016 as predicted. However, there are still indications of potential growth with this trend, with 29% predicted in the next year and 67% growth in the next 3 to 5 years. In recent projects in the PLM space, we've seen evidence of a very long implementation process for many PLM solutions, typically in the range of 1 to 3 years. So whilst the predicted growth has not been achieved in the last year, it's possible that many companies are actually still in the implementation stage. Not surprisingly, there's high usage amongst larger companies, about 39%, and medium companies account for about 60%, and then small about 10%. As expected, we see the greatest uses of PLM in the manufacturing sector, but also particularly in the Americas. But interestingly, short-term growth is more likely to come from APAC. Siemens Teamcenter and PTC Windchill continue to be the main products used, and some of the benefits that respondents were talking about in relation to PLM were things like savings on design improvements, cost savings, and a faster time to market. This year, we also asked about, what's a particular question we asked, thinking about PLM users who do not have an engineering background, to what extent do you think they find doing graphics-intensive work from PLM user-friendly? And the opinion was quite polarized. It was pretty much even split. Building information modeling, or BIM, is the next trend that we're looking at here. And actually, building information modeling shows a slight decline in current usage for 2016 and a drop in perceived importance since last year. And a lack of in-house technical expertise seems to be the main reason preventing companies from using BIM. Some of the benefits of BIM that were mentioned were things like design improvement, which is about 62%, savings on design time and cost savings, as well as faster response times to market. And interesting, companies in the UK and Canada are more likely to be implementing BIM in the next 12 months. And that's not really unexpected in the UK, with the government have an ambition for all companies to achieve level 2 BIM for those involved with government construction projects by this year. Respondents are more likely to be using Autodesk, Bentley and Trimble software if they're considering implementing BIM within the next 12 months. Next trend we're looking at here is product data management, or PDM. And here we're expecting future growth in the next year to be about 21%. And over the next 3 to 5 years, it will increase to 39%. There's significantly higher usage in the Americas than in EMEA, or in fact APAC. And there's high current usage in large and medium companies. I think small companies represent about 16% of our sample. Usage of PDM is greatest in the manufacturing sector, it's about 44%. And where they are using PDM, they're most likely to be using PTC, it's about 57%, or Siemens at 49%, or in fact Dassault at slightly less at 48%. The next trend we're looking at is CAM, and future growth potential is relatively low in the next 12 months. It's about 17%, and over 3 to 5 years, the growth potential is about 29%. But 4 in 10 companies have seen an increase in the usage of CAM in the past year, and a similar proportion that have unchanged usage, indicating there's still potential to maintain and upsell to current users. Usage of CAM in manufacturing represents about 34%, and there's significantly lower usage in smaller companies than in the medium. Usage amongst large companies is reported most in the USA and also in India. The companies I mentioned most in their products, Master CAM is about 21%, NX CAM is about 17%, and Solid CAM at 10%. They're the most used CAM products. But 7 in 10 of our respondents feel that CAM instructions automatically generated from 3D CAD is very important to their business. And about 85% felt that the same or more effort should be put into improving CAD to CAM integration by CAD software suppliers. And really the high cost in it is the main reason that companies cite for not implementing CAM. The next survey we're looking at here is simulation, or CAE. And within this survey, we've defined simulation as the use of a CAD model during the design process to predict real-world behavior performance of that design, usually with CAE software. So despite the decline in usage in 2016, there is seen to be some potential for future growth, and we see a small increase in the importance rating of this trend from 6.5 in 2014 to 6.8 in 2016. Simulation is more likely to be used currently in the larger organizations. It's about 45%, 28% are smaller companies. And as expected, this is significantly lower usage within the AEC sector. Use of simulation is mostly for design optimization. It's about 79% of respondents mentioned that. Design validation, or in fact the prediction of product performance. And we asked a question about what would need to change for you to start using simulation or CAE software. And ease of use for less experienced designers would be the key driver in encouraging additional use of simulation software. It's about 46% of respondents mentioned that. And that was particularly so in the US market. And probably not surprisingly, a 50% cost reduction would encourage usage, particularly in areas like China, India, and Australia. Some of our respondents expect some level of expert support for usage guidance with CAE software and simulation. It's generally expected to be part of a package. In terms of our respondents, 39% are receiving all their support free, and 28% have at least some support for free. Interestingly, the offer of a short-term rental license, or pay-as-you-go, and the availability of expert support to guide use of simulation would also drive usage. And these may be areas where simulation software vendors should consider. Next, we're looking at 3D modeling. And overall, 3/4 of our sample are currently using 3D modeling. And usage is highest amongst the manufacturing sector, and also amongst companies involved in processing and plants. Predicted growth is limited in all 3 of the world's geographies. And in the next year, we're anticipating 4% increase, and over 3 to 5 years, it's about 7%. There's high current usage in the manufacturing sector, and significantly low in the AEC sector. Also, there's lower usage in the APAC region, and certainly more so than in EMEA and the Americas. Large companies are more likely to be current users, about 85%, although 7 in 10 small companies use 3D modeling. Some of the reasons why companies are not adopting 3D modeling include things like incompatibility with in-house systems, lack of technical in-house expertise. And in a recent project that Business Advantage conducted with users of low-end CAD software, we found that many low-end and free solutions actually already offer some 3D functionality. And while a good number of companies really don't have a need for that 3D functionality, customers perceive 3D to add significant value, even at the lower end of the market. So here we're looking at 2D drafting, which was a new trend. Although there's current high usage, there's very little future predicted growth. In the next year, we expect about 1%, and in 3 to 5 years, it's about 3%. On average, about 39% of design work is produced using 2D drawings. 34% use both 2D and 3D, and 27% of our sample just use 3D. 3/4 of our respondents still feel that 2D drawings automatically generated from a 3D CAD or BIM to be important to their business. And a similar proportion feel that the same or more effort should be put into improving 2D drafting capabilities by CAD software vendors. We see similar levels of current usage across all industry sectors for 2D, but there's significantly lower usage in the APAC region. It's about 42% compared to EMEA and Americas, which were 71% and 77% respectively. So I'm now going to hand over back to Chris, who will talk more about software and hardware usage.
Thanks very much, Nicola, for that more detailed dive into this year's key trends. As we mentioned earlier, more information is available for download, but now we're going to go on to look at 3 or 4 elements of CAD usage, software and hardware. So we're going to look at the most used CAD and collaboration software tools. We're going to look at the current and future usage of hardware, and we're also going to look at where people go to find out information about CAD technologies, the sources of information. So the first area is the most used CAD software packages, and I don't think there's any great surprise here for any of us that AutoCAD continues to maintain market leadership. It's been the most used CAD package across all 3 years of the survey, and it is most used in all sectors bar the government sector. AEC companies are most likely to use AutoCAD LT in addition to AutoCAD, whilst manufacturing companies look to SolidWorks and Inventor as an alternative or in addition to. Looking at collaboration software tools, there is significantly lower usage of collaboration software in APAC and much higher usage in large companies. Only 1 in 10 of those respondents from large companies currently do not use collaboration software tools. Autodesk products are becoming more and more widely considered for collaboration. If we look at the top 5, 4 of these top 5 are now Autodesk products. Regionally, there is some difference. EMEA favors Design Review as its leading collaboration tool, while the Americas favors PTC Windchill. Moving on to the current and future usage of hardware, we've really asked the question, what are you currently using and what do you plan to use moving forwards? And if we drew a vertical line after the top 3, so after desktop workstation, desktop PC, and laptop PC, those to the left of the line are going, or the forecast is a decline in their use, while those to the right of that line, mobile workstations, solid-state drives, virtual CAD workstations, tablets, and mobile phones all show an increase in the future. Workstation, while showing very high levels of current usage, shows quite a big drop in forecast usage, and similarly with desktop PCs, and a little less with laptops. In terms of increases, virtual CAD workstation shows good growth, as do tablets, and mobile phones in percentage terms is very small, growth from, or usage of 3% going to 6%, but of course in terms related to those percentages, then it's going to double in use. And larger phones or phablets may well be influencing that, of course. The large companies are significantly more likely to currently use desktop and mobile workstations than small or medium companies who are more likely to be using desktop PCs. And this pattern, the difference of usage by size of company, is also reflected in predicted future usage. So we always find this a very interesting area. We ask people where they go to find out information about CAD software and solutions. And again, I don't think there's any surprise here that internet searches remain the key source of information for CAD users, decision makers, and there has been some growth in that over the last year. The next four methods or sources of information, the industry magazines and journals, websites related to software solutions, online blogs, CAD forums, other forums, and webinars, all now are equal with a 40% response. So overall, the usage of information sources has remained pretty stable from last year after increases in 2014 to 2015. It's important to note, though, that these consolidated results are for all job titles, but different types of users or decision makers prefer different media. And so therefore, in marketing to reach senior managers or CAD managers or engineers, designers, different strategies should be employed. And we do have more information about that breakdown if people are interested. And there are differences in preferences by industry sector. Again, this would require different approaches in terms of the sources of information that these users look at. So, as we mentioned, we can perform more analysis by vendor, by geo, country, job title, industry, etc., etc. There's many, many options available. So please contact us if you have specific needs. So, thank you very much for your attention and interest in the CAD Trends webinar. I'm now going to pass back to Bill to moderate our Q&A session. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good. Just before we open up for Q&A, if you'd like to, we've had a few questions come in, but if you'd like to enter any questions that you have in the chat pane on the right-hand side of your screen, in the GoToWebinar toolbar, please do that now. Would be a good time. And before I open up, just wanted to remind you and just gently request once again that when you do sign off, if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute or two to fill out the very short survey just to give us any feedback on today and how we might make it even better and more useful for you in the future. We do review every single comment and take each one seriously in order to try to improve and make this better year on year. So now opening up, let's see, we had a few questions come in. First one was pay-as-you-go, about growth. This was Chris and Nicola. Pay-as-you-go has the highest forecast growth that was expected. Can you talk a little bit more about what pay-as-you-go means in order to kind of help understand how to make best use of that information?
Right, well, I can answer that one. We didn't provide a definition of pay-as-you-go to the survey participants, beyond saying that it's pay-as-you-go access to CAD software. So there could be a broad range of meanings, but most commonly we see this as all use of software except for the traditional perpetual licenses and also the maintenance subscriptions. So it could include short-term rental of software, annual subscriptions, and access to software where users pay only for the licenses they need and use, so things like token-based.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Nicola. A few questions coming in. Let's see here. Well, I don't know if we can answer this one or not, but I'll try, Nicola and Chris. But if not, we can look at it afterwards. Question is, how do you see printing influenced by these trends?
Well,
something we looked at, but knowing that we do a lot of work in the printing market, I don't know if there's anything that you can share, Chris. Thank you.
No, I think as you said, Bill, from the point of view of this research, we looked at 3D printing, and I think that's clearly explained. In terms of regular printing, we did not ask about that. I don't know if you have any.
No,
comments.
but I know in recent projects we've seen an increase in certain areas for electronic viewing of drawings, so there is less physical printing of output from CAD software. I think particularly in the APAC region that was the case in several recent projects.
Yeah, we can. We've probably got some data we can look at. I know you're keeping track of the questioners, Bill. So perhaps we can come back to that individually. But we can give a better response on that area.
Oh, super, thank you. And that's an area where we do a great deal of work globally. Is in the print market, both related to and unrelated to CAD and large format printing, multifunction printers, etc. I know we didn't go into this question within the report here that we're talking about today, but the question is, do we have information on the leading CAD software for BIM?
Yes, we do. We don't have it readily to hand, I don't think, but we have quite a lot of data around BIM usage and different packages. So again, we can get back and give a bit more information on that topic as well.
The top mentions were Autodesk, Bentley, and Trimble in relation to BIM.
Yeah, Autodesk, Bentley, and Trimble. Again, I think no great surprises there, but we can look at it in more detail. We just summarized things today. We have a lot of data that we can look at and answer individual questions.
Perfect. And just related to that was, do we have rankings of CAD software usage by vendor at the country or region level available?
Yes, we do. Some of the, this data came from 64 different countries. Some of the countries, the US, for example, we have a good sample size, and we can look at that. For some smaller markets, there's very limited sample, and so it wouldn't be reliable data. But for leading markets, we can look at that as well. Yeah.
And while talking about sample size, just a question of how confident are we that with a sample size of 610 respondents, that it's large enough for us to be comfortable and confident with these results presented today?
Well, 610 for some of these markets represents a good-sized sample at a 95% confidence level. So, if we did this survey 19 times out of 20, we're going to get these results. Plus or minus, the margin of error is 4% over the total sample. Of course, some of the trends, not all people are using this or plan to use it. Sample size would be smaller, and that is noted on the slide. And of course, the margin of error does increase. but at the global level, we can be confident of the results because of the sample size.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, just reading through here. Just a quick, simple one. How did we define small, medium, and large businesses in the survey?
Answer that one?
Yeah.
Small companies have fewer than 50 employees. Medium have between 50 and 1,000 employees, and large are those companies, organizations with more than 1,000 employees.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure the answer to this. Is there any data that we have related to employment in the drafting and design industry available?
Not off the shelf, so to speak. We could do some custom research there. There is data available in certain countries that could be put together, and we have created, oh gosh, I wouldn't know, 50, 100 different projects over time, looking at market size, number of drafters, designers, engineers, different types of engineers in different countries, in different industries. So we do have a lot of data, but I don't think there's anything that's just, as I say, it's project data for clients that's off the shelf, but we could do some custom work for someone.
Thanks, Chris. Next one is workstation virtualization, VDI, included in any of the technology categories that we researched here today? And if not, or if so, are there any trends in VDI that we have detected or seen?
Workstations, we do touch on that, but I don't think we're looking at virtualization as part of this survey.
Perfect. Okay.
No,
we have conducted projects in that area, but this specific survey, no.
Yeah, we do. Again, we do have some data on this, but it's not part of this survey. But again, an individual question. We may have some. We may have one or two comments that we can make. But again, if someone is, it's really an interest for them, we can look at doing some custom research.
And Andy, we can have a quick relook at that after today as well. We'll follow up with you personally afterwards. All right, and just final one or two here. How deeply can we drill down, or can we drill down into sub-market sectors, i.e. within AEC, can we drill down into civil engineering or transportation planning, etc.?
We have broken down industry segments quite extensively. So in the questionnaire, for example, there are some 67 different industry segments that we ask people to categorize themselves within. So yeah, we can break down AEC into different components, for example. Again, I mean, AEC as a whole, the sample size is 232. We could probably look at 4 or 5 different segments. There may be some amalgamation there to give at least a reasonable sample. We really wouldn't want to go lower than 50, but so yeah, the short answer is yes, we can drill down a little more if people are particularly interested in a sector.
Perfect. Thank you. And by the way, Nitesh just reminded me that we did ask a question about virtual CAD workstations, which we should have some additional data on the VDI question there for you. Let's see. I think. Do we do research in emerging markets such as China, India, Brazil?
Yes, we do. I think. Yeah, many of the projects we do are global studies for our larger clients. They will do work in the Americas, in EMEA, and in APAC. It's quite common, for example, if we're looking at South America or North America, Latin America, South America, we'll do maybe the US and Brazil or Mexico. We've done a number of projects in India. We do work, I wouldn't say continually in China, but very frequently there are projects which include China. So yeah, a lot of experience in emerging markets.
Perfect. Well, good. Well, with that, we are at about the top of the hour. So I think with that, we're going to wrap up. There are a couple questions that I didn't get to, and one or two I probably need to ask some clarification on. So I'm going to skip over those at the moment, but we will follow up with you, like I said, personally on those. So with that, I'd like to wrap up and thank you all very much again for taking the time to join us today and for your very active participation. A lot of good questions coming in here. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks all. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.